We kissed with her wedding ring on. I noticed the new scent before I noticed the lipstick. Our hallway held onto smells the way old buildings hold onto secrets: garlic from 4A, paint thinner from the super's closet, someone's laundry trying to be a vacation. That night, a ribbon of jasmine threaded through it, not the powdery kind my wife wears sometimes, but something darker, a midnight garden kind of floral that stayed after you moved. By the time I reached our door, my shirt was already thinking about the heat outside. I pushed in and found Lena barefoot on the couch, her hair up, a pencil behind one ear and the luminous glare of her laptop bright on her face. She's a designer, decks and mock-ups and a talent for making clients think their own ideas were prettier than they'd imagined. When she looked up, I felt the usual shift in my ribs, like something was making room for something else. "Hey," she said, voice warm, eyes tired. "You made it." "I brought pasta," I said, holding up a paper bag like a trophy. The jasmine note moved with me, faint and certain. "Bless you." She closed her laptop like she was tucking in a child. "Give me 5 minutes to finish this email and I'll be human again." I leaned down to kiss her. It was the kind of kiss married people collect and spend like coins, affection you can hold and still need more of. When I pulled back, there was the faintest smear of coral at the edge of my collar, a quiet half-moon I could pretend I didn't see. "New shade?" I asked as lightly as I could. She glanced at the glass coffee table where a small pile of cosmetics had been tossed earlier. "I wish," she said, laughing once. "I'm in a forget-to-wear lipstick era." She stood and stretched, the hem of her t-shirt lifting a little to reveal the soft geometry of her waist. "Be right back, gotta hit send." Later, after we'd eaten and she'd fallen asleep with one hand still on my chest, I touched the small coral mark the way you touch a mystery you're pretty sure you dreamed. Jasmine threaded through the night like a decision I hadn't made yet. The next morning the mark felt like a dare. I showered, shaved too close, nicked my jaw, and tried not to look at my phone too much. At noon, while I was editing a podcast in my studio, a room the size of an argument above a barber shop, my phone buzzed with a message from a number that wasn't saved. "You left with my scent last night." I stared at the screen. Air felt complicated. "Who is this?" I wrote. A reply arrived almost immediately. "Your hallway neighbor. The one with the plants that keep thriving against reason. If you want to give something back, bring me coffee. Terrace. 5 p.m. There were 3 terraces in our building. Only one had a jungle. Apartment 4B, Sophie and Ethan, had transformed theirs into a little city of leaves. He traveled for work. She didn't talk much. When we passed in the hall, she gave that small, private smile people wear when they carry a very beautiful secret they're not sure anybody else would understand. She had jasmine in terracotta pots, climbing up the wrought iron like a rumor. I'd noticed. What else is there to do while waiting for the elevator that takes its own sweet time? At 4:55, I found myself buying a coffee I didn't need from the cafe downstairs, grabbing a second one because I suppose I had always been the kind of man who couldn't resist seeing what a carefully worded text might want from him. I told myself I was being neighborly. I told myself I was returning a smell, which is the most ridiculous sentence I've ever built in my head. Her door was open a hand's width. I pushed gently. "I was starting to think you were a mirage," she said. Sophie stood barefoot by the open terrace doors, the city heat laying a glow across her shoulders. She had a scarf in her hair, sheer and ridiculous in the best way, and a sundress the color of something you drink on a beach even if the weather refuses to cooperate. She was not wearing lipstick. "You texted me," I said too formally, like a man being sworn in. I held out the coffees. "Debt paid." She took one and sipped. "I'm not sure jasmine counts as a debt," she said, stepping aside so I could look. The terrace was a tapestry of green, vines, ferns, and the jasmine that volunteered its perfume like it had been waiting too. The city felt farther away out there, as if the rails knew enough to lie to you kindly. "You said your scent," I said. "My shirt had, it was Lena's." Sophie's gaze flicked to my collar. She smiled with half her mouth. "I didn't kiss your shirt, Eli." I hadn't told her my name. Either she'd asked around or she was better at noticing than most people. I opened my mouth, then closed it because my point had gotten up and left the room all on its own. "I was watering late," she said, nodding toward the jasmine. "Your door opened. I smelled fried garlic and a fight that didn't want to become one. Then you came out with your trash bag and your careful eyes and," she exhaled, small laugh. "I thought, here is a man who thinks too hard about being good. It's attractive in a world where most decide not to." "I'm married," I said, which was like pointing out that the sky was present. My ring felt heavier for a second. "I know," she said, her voice steady but not apologetic. "I'm married too." She wasn't wearing a ring. I looked, then looked away, embarrassed at being caught between curiosity and manners. "Ethan in Singapore," she said, anticipating perhaps the shape of my next thought. "He is often nowhere I am not. We have a good marriage. We also don't talk well when we should. People can have both." Wind stirred the plants, and Sophie stepped closer so we could hear each other properly. The city roared in its gentle concrete way. She smelled like jasmine and laundry, and the idea of running into someone twice in one day. "Why did you text me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light and finding it weighted with something I was pretending not to weigh. "Because last night after you went in, your wife left," she said. 10 minutes. Back again with a second perfume, the kind that announces itself. Coral lipstick you could have read a letter with. And when she came back, she looked like a person who had taken a deep breath she wasn't sure she was allowed. Something turned in my stomach. She said she had to finish an email. Maybe she did. Sophie's shoulder brushed mine as she moved past me to clip a dead leaf from a vine. The contact wasn't an accident, but it was gentle enough to be deniable. "I didn't tell you to make trouble," she added, softer. "I told you because you were walking around with a question on your collar, and a man shouldn't have to ask it alone." I looked out over the terrace. From there I could see our own windows, the faint reflection of a room I knew blindfolded. The distance between our balconies felt optical, like something a lens had invented. "Why me?" I asked. "You don't even know me." Sophie leaned back against the railing. The dress shifted, a small surrender to gravity that felt obscene only because I wanted it to be. "Maybe I'm selfish," she said. "Maybe I wanted to talk to someone who sees things, and maybe I wanted someone to see me." We stood there, the heat turning everything slow. It is exactly in that softness, the late afternoon, the little mercy of a shade, the way a stranger holds your eye without flinching, that you can forget how easy it is to lean too far. "Do you want to know," she asked very quietly, "where your wife went?" My mind produced 2 lists, and I had promised myself I'd stop living by bullet points. Instead, I said, "I want to know what I don't know." She nodded, like a teacher pleased I'd finally arrived at a question worth answering. "There's a hotel 2 streets over," she said. "They have a bar with red leather stools and a bartender who uses orange peels like seduction. I saw her there, with a man in a shirt so starched it could stand up on its own." "You followed her." "I was going to buy ice cream," she said, shrugging. "I took the long way. Sometimes curiosity is just a longer walk." "Did they," the word kissed hovered, "too teenage?" and the word more was a field I wasn't ready to cross. They sat close, Sophie said. If I believed in auras, I would tell you theirs had gotten the message. No touching that could get them in trouble with a photograph. Plenty that would make a photograph unnecessary. I needed to move. I took a lap of the terrace, a polite tour of leaves that didn't require decisions. I told myself I trusted Lena. I told myself that trust doesn't mean refusing to see. The jasmine kept offering itself to the air as if the world was the kind of place that deserved such generosity. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked again, as if repetition could make the answer try on a better dress. Her eyes met mine and didn't move. "So you don't make up ghosts," she said. "So if you go home and you choose to ask, you do it with your hands open." We didn't touch. Not then. But the distance between us changed shape, like two magnets testing whether they belonged on the same side of the fridge. Sophie's mouth tilted like a question, and I realized with a small, clean terror that I had arrived at the kind of moment that teaches you who you are in a way you can never unlearn. "I should go," I said. "You should," she agreed, and the way she said it was the kindest thing she could have done. When I turned toward the door, she said my name softly. I looked back. Sophie had slipped a ring from her pocket, the thinnest circle of gold, and was turning it with her fingertip, an orbit learned by muscle memory. "I don't wear it when he's gone," she said, simple as weather. "It keeps the questions others have for me from getting lazy. But tonight I will put it on and I will ask him to tell me the truth after he sleeps. It is easier for him when his guard is down." She smiled, but it was a tired, brave thing. "Good luck, Eli." The hallway felt colder than it was. Our door stuck just a little, like it liked making me work for the ordinary. Lena was in the kitchen, hair down, chopping cilantro like it owed her an apology. She looked up and read my face the way you learn to read a city, by landmarks first, then by alleys. She set the knife down. "Okay," she said. "Ask me the question you've been rehearsing." I hadn't rehearsed it. I thought it would hide until the last second, then arrive dressed like anger. It didn't. It came dressed like a request. "Are we okay?" I asked. For a moment I thought she would laugh, wave it off, pour me a glass of wine. Instead, her eyes filled and she leaned back against the counter as if the tile could lend her its straight lines. "I had a drink with someone," she said. "A copywriter from the agency. His name is Marco, and he tells stories like they are small animals he is feeding. I went because I wanted to sit in a room where someone looked at me like I was new. I left because I wanted to come home to the man who knows what I look like at 3 a.m. when the world isn't pretty." "Did you?" "No," she said, and then, because she is Lena and she doesn't like leaving anything implied, "I wanted to. I wanted to remember that wanting doesn't always mean losing. But I didn't. And then I scrubbed my teeth in the bar bathroom like a lunatic and came home smelling like someone else, and I hated that I'd made our place a place you had to doubt." Something in me unclenched. Something else braced. This is the arithmetic of staying. Subtract the fantasies until what remains is tender and difficult and unmistakably yours. "I met Sophie," I said. Lena blinked. "From 4B. On her terrace. She told me where you were." "Huh?" Lena pushed hair behind her ear. "Of course. She sees everything. She probably knows when the elevator cries." "I didn't go there too," I began, and then I stopped. She knew why I'd gone, more or less. The point wasn't to be pure, it was to be honest. "You could have," she said. "I didn't," I said. "But I stood too close to a maybe for longer than people who want to stay married should." We both laughed then, small and truthful. Lena crossed the room slowly, like the floor might suddenly become negotiation. "Do you want to stay married?" she asked, stopping close enough that I could see the constellation of freckles near her left eye, a pattern my mouth had mapped 1,000 times. "Yes," I said, "but not by pretending the world stopped wanting us." Her mouth broke into the kind of smile I fell in love with, tired and victorious at the same time. "So we name things," she said. "We give wanting a place to sit that isn't a stranger's lap." We made rules right there in the kitchen without calling them rules. No secret drinks with people we'd write a song about later. No letting compliments go unspent at home. Touch on purpose, not just at night, but in line for coffee, in the middle of emails. Small reminders that our bodies recognize each other from more than habit. We didn't rush to undress each other, and that's what made it feel new. We stood in the narrow light of the hallway and just kissed, slow, the kind of kissing that believes in a long game. Her fingers found the back of my neck, and I felt the exact moment where time stopped being a clock and became a room we could decorate. Our breaths braided. Her ring pressed lightly into my palm when I laced our fingers together, a tiny circle insisting on presence. We were careful and not careful in equal measure. And when we moved to the bedroom, we took our time the way people do when time is finally on their side. Hands teaching and remembering, clothes becoming a punctuation we chose, mouths saying all the versions of yes that don't require a single word. I won't translate our night into nouns and verbs here. Some things are better as music without lyrics. The next afternoon, I passed Sophie in the hall. She had her ring on, her hair up, a canvas tote full of leafy things that looked like hope on sale. "Hey," she said, a smile that acknowledged exactly as much as it needed to. I asked him. He told me some of the truth. I told him the rest. "How are you?" "Like a person exercising a muscle she forgot she had," she said, trembling and proud. "Thank you," I said, "for telling me, for not ushing your own story onto mine." "I thought about it," she admitted, and there was no shame in it. Then I decided I liked the version of myself who doesn't steal from the people next door. We stood there in that soft, neighborly quiet that lives between people who have shared an almost and chosen not to turn it into an after. Sophie glanced at my collar in a joke we would never tell out loud again. "I'm switching to rosemary," she said. "Jasmine's too flirtatious." "Keep the jasmine," I said, surprising both of us. "It's honest about what it wants." That night, Lena pulled me onto the balcony with 2 glasses of wine and a blanket because the evening had decided to be kind. We watched the city glow the way it does when it's tired of pretending. She took my hand and traced the band of my ring with her fingertip, slow, a whisper of gold on skin. "We were brave," she said. "We were almost something else," I said. "Let be brave again tomorrow," she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. "And if we're not, let's be kind." Across the way, a breeze moved through Sophie's plants like applause. Somewhere, a siren wailed and then laughed at itself. My shirt was clean. My collar was just fabric. I breathed in a night that smelled faintly of jasmine, of the dented lemon candle Lena swears makes our tiny balcony look expensive of us. We stayed there until the blanket became a promise and the glasses emptied themselves. Inside, our bedroom waited, honest and unafraid, and we undressed one decision at a time, like 2 people learning the choreography of staying after they nearly learned a different dance. And when we finally slept, it was as if the city had remembered how to be quiet just for us. The kind of quiet that arrives only when you've told the truth with your mouth and your hands and your breath and everything that isn't language but still says exactly what it means.